Daniel Hayes sat in the large meeting room and tried to stay calm. He had been coming to this place for 3 years now. 3 long years of talking, waiting, and hoping. The room was on a space station called Nexus Prime, far from Earth. It was where the Galactic Council met to discuss important matters. Daniel was an ambassador from Earth. His job was to represent all of humanity in these meetings. He wanted the Council to accept humans as members of the galactic community. But after 3 years, he was tired. Very tired. Next to Daniel sat Lisa Martinez. She was his assistant and had been with him since the beginning. On his other side was Commander Jack Morrison, a military officer from the Earth Defense Fleet. Jack wore his uniform and stood straight, even when sitting. He never showed emotion on his face, but Daniel knew Jack was as frustrated as he was. Across the table sat the members of the Galactic Council. There were 4 main alien races in the Council. The Valorians looked like tall, thin birds with smooth skin instead of feathers. They always acted like they were better than everyone else. The Quilith were short and round, with too many arms. They loved money and trade more than anything. The Kresh were the soldiers of the galaxy, with thick armor-like skin and mean eyes. The Thremen were the scientists, with large heads and curious expressions. Council Speaker Threlvon was a Valorian. He stood at the head of the table and looked down at the humans with cold eyes. He had been leading these meetings for months now, and Daniel had learned to hate that look. "Ambassador Hayes," Threlvon said in his high, musical voice, "we have discussed your request for membership many times. The Council has decided on our final terms." Daniel already knew what was coming. They had been giving humanity demands for years. Each time the demands got worse, but he stayed quiet and listened. "First," Threlvon continued, "Earth must surrender control of its military fleet to the Council. We cannot allow a new member to keep independent military forces." Jack's jaw tightened next to Daniel, but he said nothing. "Second, you must open all your borders to free trade with Council members. No restrictions, no taxes, no limits." Lisa made a small noise. Daniel knew what she was thinking. The Quilith would flood Earth with cheap goods and destroy human businesses within months. "Third, you must share all your technology with the Council, all patents, all research, all discoveries. This includes your military technology." Daniel felt his hands grip the edge of the table. They wanted everything. Every advantage humanity had worked for. "Fourth, you must accept a Council overseer. This individual will guide your government and ensure you follow Council rules." That was it. They wanted to control Earth completely. Make humanity into servants, not partners. "These terms are final," Threlvon said. "You have 1 solar cycle to accept. If you refuse, the Council will place economic sanctions on Earth. We may also need to blockade your system for your own protection." The threat was clear. Accept slavery or face punishment. Daniel looked at Threlvon for a long moment. He looked at the other Council members. Some looked smug, some looked bored. None of them looked like they cared about humanity at all. He thought about Earth, about the billions of people waiting to hear what happened here, about the colonies on Mars and Europa and Titan, about the ships and stations and dreams of a whole species. Then Daniel Hayes stood up. The room went quiet. Standing up during a Council meeting was not normal. It was considered rude. Daniel reached down and picked up his data pad. Lisa looked up at him with surprise. Jack's eyes went wide. "Ambassador Hayes," Threlvon said with irritation in his voice, "we are not finished." "Yes, we are," Daniel said. His voice was calm and clear. He looked at each Council member in turn. "Humanity thanks the Galactic Council for their time. We have listened to your terms carefully. We reject them. All of them." Now the Council members were paying attention. A few sat up straighter. Others leaned forward. "Effective immediately, Earth is withdrawing from all negotiations. We will not be sending any more ambassadors to this station. We will not be responding to any more messages from the Council." Threlvon's face showed shock. "You cannot simply walk away." "We can," Daniel said. "And we are." Humanity will pursue its own path forward. We will build our own future. Without you. Lisa was gathering her things now, understanding what was happening. Jack stood up tall and proud. "This is foolish," said a creche commander from across the table. "You need us. You are alone in the galaxy." "We would rather be alone than be slaves," Daniel replied. A Quilith merchant laughed. "You will regret this. Without council trade, your economy will collapse. You will come begging within weeks." Daniel smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "We'll see." He tucked his datapad under his arm and looked at Threlvan one last time. "Good day, gentlemen," or whatever your equivalent might be. Then he walked toward the door. Lisa followed immediately. Jack came last, walking slowly, making sure the council members saw his military uniform and the medals on his chest. Behind them, the council erupted in noise. Aliens were shouting, arguing, demanding. Threlvan was calling for order, but the humans did not look back. They walked down the long hallway of Nexus Prime. Their footsteps echoed on the metal floor. No one spoke until they reached their shuttle. Once inside, with the door sealed, Lisa let out a long breath. "We really just did that." "We did," Daniel confirmed. Jack moved to the pilot seat and began starting the engines. "What happens now?" Daniel sat down and strapped in. "Now we go home. We tell the president what happened and we start preparing." "Preparing for what?" Lisa asked. "For whatever comes next," Daniel said. "The council will not accept this easily. They will try to force us back. Sanctions, threats, maybe worse. Let them try," Jack said from the pilot seat. The shuttle began to move, pulling away from the station. Through the window, Daniel could see Nexus Prime getting smaller. The massive station had been humanity's hope for so long, a place where they could join something bigger than themselves. But now Daniel realized the truth. The council did not want partners, they wanted subjects. And humanity had never been good at being told what to do. "Take us home, Jack," Daniel said quietly. The shuttle turned and jumped into faster-than-light travel. Behind them, the council was probably still arguing, still shouting. They probably thought humans would return soon, desperate and ready to accept any terms. They had no idea what they had just started. Daniel closed his eyes and thought about history. About all the times in Earth's past when people had been given a choice between freedom and security, between standing alone and kneeling together. History showed that humans always chose the hard path, always chose to stand. Even when it cost everything, the council had made their offer. Humanity had given their answer. Now both sides would have to live with the consequences. The shuttle raced through space, carrying the three humans home. Behind them, a door had closed. But ahead, somewhere in the darkness, another door was opening. The question was, what would come through it? 6 months had passed since the humans walked out of Nexus Prime. 6 months of silence. The Galactic Council had sent hundreds of messages to Earth. At first, the messages were angry. They demanded that Ambassador Hayes return immediately. They said humanity was being childish and foolish. They threatened sanctions and military action. Then the messages changed. They became softer, more reasonable. The Council offered to negotiate new terms. They said perhaps they had been too harsh. Maybe they could find a compromise, but every message went unanswered. The communications reached Earth, but no one replied. It was as if humanity had simply vanished. On Nexus Prime, Council Speaker Threlvan paced in his office. He could not understand what was happening. No species had ever ignored the Council like this. It was unprecedented. They will respond soon, Threlvan told himself. They must. They have nowhere else to go. But deep down he was starting to worry. Across the galaxy, other people were noticing the silence too. Captain Velthus was a Quilith merchant who ran cargo ships between different systems. He had started trading with humans 2 years ago and found them to be reliable partners. Human traders paid on time. Their ships were fast. Their stations offered good services at fair prices. Velthus had made a lot of money working with them. But now the humans were gone. Their ships no longer appeared at the usual trading posts. Their stations had gone dark. All of Velthus's messages bounced back undelivered. At first he was annoyed. Then he started having real problems. His trade routes depended on stopping at human stations to refuel and resupply. Without those stations, his trips took twice as long and cost 3 times as much. Other merchants were having the same problem. Trade in several sectors was slowing down. Goods that used to move quickly were now stuck in warehouses. Prices were going up. Veltas complained to the council, but they told him to be patient. The humans would return soon, they said. Everything would go back to normal. But Veltas was not sure about that. He had spent time with humans. They were stubborn. Once they made a decision, they stuck to it. While the galaxy waited and wondered, humanity was very busy. Admiral Christine Blake stood on the bridge of a new ship and smiled. The ship was fresh from the shipyard, one of 50 being built in secret locations throughout human space. It was bigger than the old Earth Defense Fleet ships. It had better weapons, better shields, better engines. "Beautiful, is she not?" said a voice behind her. Christine turned to see Paul Anderson, the chief engineer of the entire project. He was a short man with messy hair and grease stains on his shirt, but he was brilliant. "She's perfect, Paul," Christine said. "How many more can we build?" "At the current rate, we can finish another 100 ships in the next 6 months," Paul replied. "Maybe more if we push the factories harder." Christine nodded. That would give them enough ships to defend their territory properly, maybe even enough to make the council think twice about attacking. "What about the new weapon systems?" she asked. Paul's eyes lit up. He loved talking about his work. "The railguns are working better than expected. They can hit targets from twice the distance of council weapons. And the new missiles are smart. Really smart. They can dodge defenses and think for themselves." "Perfect," Christine said. "Keep pushing. We need every advantage we can get." On another ship far from Earth, Director Linda Scott was reading reports. Linda ran human intelligence operations, and she had been very busy for the past 6 months. Her agents had spread throughout council space, quietly gathering information. They mapped fleet positions. They studied economic data. They identified weaknesses. Linda now knew more about the Galactic Council than most council members did. She knew which races were friends and which were rivals. She knew which systems were important and which were not. She knew where the council was strong and where it was weak. But the most interesting information came from the Thrimin Collective. A Thrimin scientist named Velmar had published a research paper about humanity's silence. He had studied Earth's history and found a pattern. Throughout human history, whenever humans withdrew diplomatically, they were preparing for something big. Sometimes it was war. Sometimes it was a major change in strategy. But silence always meant something was coming. Velmar's paper warned the council to be careful. He said humanity's silence was not weakness. It was preparation. Most council members ignored the paper. They called it alarmist nonsense. But Linda Scott read it carefully and smiled. The Thremin scientist understood. That made him dangerous. She made a note to watch Velmar closely. On the frontier of human space, life was changing. The colonies that used to ask the council for help were now standing on their own. Greg Turner was the administrator of New Dakota, a mining colony on a small planet. The colony had 3,000 people and produced valuable metals. It was remote and poorly defended. That made it a target. When the Kresh raiding party appeared in the system, Greg expected it to be like before. The raiders would demand tribute. The colony would pay. Everyone would survive. But this time was different. Greg stood in the colony's small command center and watched the Kresh ships approach on sensors. There were 3 ships, not a large force but more than enough to threaten the colony. "What do we do?" asked his assistant, a young woman named Kelly. Greg thought about the message that had come from Earth 2 months ago. It was simple and clear. No more tribute. No more surrender. Stand and fight. We will support you. "We fight," Greg said. Kelly's eyes went wide. "Fight with what?" "With these," Greg said and pulled up a new screen. The defense grid that Earth had secretly installed around New Dakota came online. Missile platforms hidden in asteroids, automated gun turrets on the surface, shield generators protecting the main settlement. The colony also had something else, 20 trained soldiers with real weapons. They had arrived from Earth 3 months ago, along with the defense systems. They were here to help the colony defend itself. When the Kresh ships moved closer, expecting easy prey, they got a surprise. Missiles launched from hidden positions, energy weapons fired from the surface. The colony's small defense ships moved to intercept. The battle did not last long. One Kresh ship exploded. Another lost its engines and drifted away, leaking air. The third turned and ran. On the colony, people cheered. They had won. They had actually won. Greg Turner watched the Kresh ships retreat and felt something he had not felt in years. Pride, strength, hope. The message from Earth had been right. Humanity did not need the Council's protection. They could protect themselves. Back on Earth, President Nathan Cross read the report about New Dakota and nodded with satisfaction. The colony had passed its test. He looked at the star chart on his wall. It showed human territory, Council territory, and the empty space between. For 3 years, humans had tried to enter that galaxy as guests. As junior partners, that had been a mistake. Now humanity would enter on their own terms, as equals. And if the Council did not like it, that was their problem. Nathan pressed a button on his desk. "Get me Admiral Blake. Tell her it is time for Phase 2. Across human space, ships began to move. Soldiers prepared. Engineers checked their weapons. Intelligence agents sent their final reports. The galaxy had been quiet for 6 months. That was about to change. 1 year after walking away from the Council, humanity returned to galactic attention. But they did not come back as beggars. They came back as conquerors. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge of the EDS Defiance and watched 50 human warships drop out of faster-than-light travel. They had arrived at the border of Council space, and he was in command of the fleet. "All ships report ready, Captain," said his communications officer. Ryan nodded. He was a young captain, only 35 years old, but he had trained his whole life for this moment. "Open a broadcast on all frequencies. Make sure every Council ship and station can hear it. Channel open, sir." Ryan took a breath and spoke clearly. "Attention, Galactic Council. This is Captain Ryan Mitchell of the Earth Defense Fleet. Humanity claims the following 17 star systems as sovereign territory. We have marked them on the attached star charts. These systems now belong to Earth and will be defended by any means necessary. This is not a request. This is a statement of fact. Any attempt to enter these systems without permission will be considered an act of war. That is all." He nodded to his communications officer. "End transmission." The message went out across space at light speed. Within hours, every Council member would hear it. And they would be very angry. The 17 systems that humanity claimed were rich in resources. They had valuable metals, rare gases, and good planets for colonies. The Council races had been eyeing these systems for years but had not claimed them yet. They were too far from Council territory and too expensive to develop. But now humans wanted them. And humans were already there, with ships and guns and determination. On Nexus Prime, Council Speaker Threlvon received the message and nearly broke his datapad in rage. How dare they? How dare the humans make demands? They were supposed to be crawling back, begging for mercy. "Assemble the Council immediately," he ordered. "We must respond to this insult." The Council met within hours. Representatives from all the major races gathered in the meeting hall. They were all talking at once, voices raised in anger and confusion. Threlvon called for order. "The humans have made an illegal claim to 17 systems. This cannot stand. We must force them to withdraw." "How?" asked a Quilith merchant. "They have refused all communication for a year. They ignore our messages. Then we send a military fleet," said a Kresh commander named Vrath. "We teach them that the Council's word is law." "Yes," Threlvon agreed, "but we must be careful. We do not want to start a war we cannot win." A Threeman scientist spoke up. "Do we even know how strong they are now? They have been silent for a year. They could have built many new ships." "They are primitives," Vrath said with contempt. "How strong could they be?" But Threlvon was not so sure. He remembered Ambassador Hayes walking out of the meeting. The calm certainty in his voice. That had not been the look of a weak man. "Send a battle fleet," Threlvon finally decided. 200 ships. Enough to show our strength, but not our entire force. Tell them to force the humans to leave the systems. If the humans resist, destroy their ships. The Kresh Empire was eager to prove its strength. War leader Krathzon was chosen to lead the fleet. He was a famous warrior who had won many battles. He looked at the mission as easy work. Humans. He laughed when he read the orders. They have soft skin and weak bones. This will be over in an hour. He took his fleet of 200 ships and jumped to the New Haven system, one of the 17 that humans had claimed. When he arrived, he found human ships waiting. Only 50 ships. Krathson laughed again. This would be even easier than he thought. Human ships, he broadcast. You are in violation of council law. Leave immediately or be destroyed. On the Defiance, Ryan Mitchell received the message. He looked at his crew. They looked back at him with steady eyes. They were ready. All ships, Ryan said calmly. Execute Battle Plan Alpha. Show them what we have learned. The battle began. The Kresh expected a simple fight. Their ships were larger. They had more weapons. They had centuries of combat experience. Victory seemed certain. But nothing went as expected. The human ships moved in patterns the Kresh computers could not predict. They worked together like parts of a single organism. When one ship was threatened, 3 others moved to protect it. When an opening appeared, human ships struck immediately. The weapons were different too. Human railguns fired metal slugs at incredible speeds from distances the Kresh thought were impossible. By the time Kresh ships detected incoming fire, the rounds were already hitting. Human missiles were not normal missiles. They were smart. Really smart. They dodged defense fire. They changed direction at the last second. They worked together to overwhelm shields. Each missile seemed to think and learn. The Kresh ships tried to close the distance to use their larger numbers at close range. But the humans used electronic warfare that blinded Kresh sensors. Suddenly, Kresh ships could not find targets. Their weapons fired at empty space while human ships hit them from the dark. Commander Vrath watched in horror as his ship started dying. One exploded when a railgun round punched through its reactor. Another spun out of control when missiles destroyed its engines. A third simply went dark when human hackers seized control of its computer systems. Fall back, Vrath ordered. Reform the battle line, but there was no time. The humans pressed their attack. They moved like hunters, isolating Kresh ships and destroying them one by one. Krathson, the great war leader, died when 3 railgun rounds hit his flagship in sequence. The first collapsed the shields. The second breached the hull. The third cut the ship in half. He did not even have time to send a final message. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, 137 Kresh ships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining 63 retreated in chaos. The humans lost 6 ships. Ryan Mitchell watched the Kresh fleet jump away and felt no joy. Only relief. They had won, but the cost was still 6 crews, 6 ships full of people who would not go home. Send rescue teams for any survivors, he ordered. Theirs and ours. Sir, should we pursue the enemy? Asked his tactical officer. No, Ryan said. We have made our point. Let them run. Let them tell the council what happened here. And tell them they did. Within days, the footage of the battle spread across the entire galaxy. News networks showed it again and again. Everyone watched in shock as the primitive humans destroyed a Kresh fleet. Director Linda Scott made sure the footage was everywhere. She had agents leak it to every major news source. She wanted the whole galaxy to see. The message was simple and clear. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not afraid. And humanity would fight for what was theirs. On Nexus Prime, Threlvan watched the battle footage and felt ice in his veins. This changed everything. The humans were not primitives. They were warriors. Dangerous warriors, what do we do now? Asked a Quillith representative. Threlvan did not have an answer. For the first time in his life, he did not know what to do. The humans had drawn a line in space. They had defended it with blood and metal, and they had won. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. The defeat of the Kresh fleet sent shockwaves through the entire galaxy. The Galactic Council had always seemed invincible. They had the largest military, the strongest economy, and the most advanced technology. Or so everyone believed. Now people were not so sure. Captain Velthas, the Quillith merchant, watched the news reports and rubbed his many arms together nervously. The trade disruptions from humanity's absence had gotten worse. Much worse. Goods that used to flow smoothly now piled up in warehouses. Shipping costs had tripled. Many smaller merchants were going bankrupt. The Quillith Consortium was losing billions of credits every month. But the real problem was not just the humans being gone. It was what they were doing instead. Velthas had heard rumors. Stories of human traders appearing in neutral zones far from council space. They were offering services at prices the council merchants could not match. Better ships, faster routes, lower costs, and people were taking those deals. Why pay council prices when humans did it better and cheaper? Velthas wondered if he should try to contact these human traders. But he was afraid. The council had forbidden all trade with humans. Anyone caught dealing with them would lose their license. Still, if things kept getting worse, he might not have a choice. On the edge of known space, a species called the Draxi were watching everything with great interest. The Draxi had asked to join the Galactic Council 15 years ago. The council said no. They said the Draxi were too primitive, too aggressive, too different. The truth was simpler. The council did not want competition. High Chief Dax of the Draxi called a meeting of his war leaders. "You have seen what the humans did," he said. "They claimed territory. They defended it. The council could not stop them." "What are you suggesting, High Chief?" asked one of the leaders. "I am suggesting we do the same," Dax replied. "We claim the systems near our homeworld. We tell the council those systems are ours now. If they send ships, we fight. But we are not as strong as the humans." Another leader protested. Dax smiled. "That is where you are wrong. I have been in contact with human traders. They are willing to sell us weapons. Good weapons. The same weapons they used to defeat the Kresh. The council will be furious," someone said. "Let them be furious," Dax said. "The humans showed us something important. The council is not invincible. They can be resisted. And if we stand together with the humans, the council cannot fight us both." 3 weeks later, the Draxi made their announcement. They claimed 12 star systems as their own territory. When the council sent the Valorian fleet to force compliance, the Draxi were ready. They had human weapons, human shields, human training. The battle was short but brutal. The Valorians lost 30 ships before they retreated. The Draxi lost only 8. Across the galaxy, other species watched and learned. If the Draxi could do it, maybe they could too. On Earth, President Nathan Cross read the reports about the Draxi with satisfaction. Things were going exactly as planned. "The council is cracking," he said to Admiral Christine Blake, who sat across from him in the Oval Office. "Yes, sir," Christine agreed, "but they have not given up yet. Intelligence suggests they are planning something big." "How big?" "Very big. Director Scott believes they are assembling the largest fleet in council history. Over 1,000 ships." Nathan was quiet for a moment. "Are we ready for that?" "We have 800 ships now," Christine said. "And the home system defenses are complete. If they come to Earth, we can hurt them badly. Maybe badly enough that they will think twice about future attacks." "Good," Nathan said. "Make sure every captain knows the plan. We only get one chance to do this, right?" Meanwhile, Colony Administrator Karen White was busy establishing human trading posts throughout neutral space. These were not military bases. They were simple stations where ships could refuel, repair, and trade. But they served another purpose. They created an alternative to the Council's trade network. Ships that used to stop at Council stations now stopped at human stations instead. It was faster, cheaper, easier. The Council tried to compete, but they could not match human efficiency. Human stations were automated. They did not need huge crews. They did not have layers of corrupt officials demanding bribes. They just worked. More and more independent traders started using human routes. The Council's monopoly on galactic trade was breaking down. The Thremin Collective watched all of this with concern. Unlike the other Council races, the Thremin were scientists and scholars first. They valued knowledge over power. The Thremin Prime Speaker, a wise old being named Kelvar, called a private meeting with her advisors. "The Council is failing," she said bluntly. "We have lost control of the humans. We are losing control of trade. Other species are rebelling. If we continue on this path, the Council will collapse." "What do you suggest?" asked an advisor. "I suggest we make contact with the humans, privately, without the Council knowing. We should try to establish diplomatic relations." "The Council forbids this," another advisor protested. "The Council forbids many things that are necessary," Kelvar replied. "We must think of our own people first. If the Council falls, the Thremin must be prepared to survive." She sent a secret message to Earth. It was received by scientist Ambassador Peter Chen, a human diplomat who specialized in dealing with alien scientists. Peter met with the Thremin representatives on a neutral station. The meeting was brief and professional. "My people wish to trade with yours," the Thremin ambassador said. "We have technology. You have resources. We can help each other." Peter was cold but not hostile. "We will consider trade agreements. But understand this. Humanity will never again recognize the Council's authority over us. We will deal with individual races as equals or not at all. We understand, the Thraman said. That is acceptable to us. It was a small crack in the Council's unity. But it was a crack, and cracks grow. On Nexus Prime, Council Speaker Threlvan refused to accept reality. He could not believe the Council's power was fading. He would not believe it. We will show them our strength, he told the assembled Council. We will assemble every ship we have. We will go to Earth itself. We will force them to surrender. A Valorian High Commander named Ralseth was given command of the operation. He was a proud warrior who believed absolutely in Valorian superiority. I will need total command, Ralseth said. Ships from every Council race under my orders. You will have it, Threlvan promised. Over the next 3 months, ships gathered. Valorian cruisers, Kresh battleships, Quelith support vessels, Thremen science ships. Every race contributed. The fleet that assembled was massive. Over 1,000 ships. The most powerful armada in galactic history. Surely, Threlvan thought, surely this would be enough. The humans would see this fleet and surrender. They would have to. But Director Linda Scott's intelligence network had been watching. She knew about the fleet before it even finished assembling. She knew its size, its composition, its planned route. She sent all the information to Admiral Blake. Christine read the report and smiled. They are coming right where we want them. Can we stop them? Asked President Cross. Stop them? Christine said. Sir, we are going to destroy them. Or at least hurt them so badly they will never try this again. She began giving orders. Ships moved into position. Defense systems came online. Soldiers prepared. Earth was ready. The trap was set. Now all they had to do was wait for the Council to walk into it. The Council Armada arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system like a storm. 1,043 ships, the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. They came out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, filling the dark of space with their hulls and weapons. On the flagship, High Commander Ralseth looked at the sensor displays with satisfaction. No human fleet had come to meet them. The path to Earth was clear. They know they cannot win, Ralseth said to his officers. They will surrender without a fight. He opened a communication channel to Earth. Humans, this is High Commander Ralseth of the Galactic Council Fleet. You see our strength. We have come to your homeworld with overwhelming force. You have one option. Surrender immediately and accept the Council's original terms, plus additional penalties for your rebellion. You have 1 hour to respond. On Earth, President Nathan Cross sat in a command center deep underground. Around him were screens showing the positions of every Council ship. Admiral Christine Blake stood beside him, along with Director Linda Scott and other military leaders. Arrogant to the end, Nathan said quietly. He looked at Christine. Are we ready? Yes, sir, Christine replied. All ships in position. All defense platforms online. We are ready. Nathan nodded and opened his own communication channel. His voice was broadcast across all frequencies so every ship in the system could hear. High Commander Ralseth, this is President Nathan Cross of Earth. You came to our home with threats and demands. You wanted us desperate and dependent. Instead, we built something better without you. Now you are here with your fleet, thinking you can take by force what we would not give freely. Let me be very clear. You will not. This is your only warning. Leave now while you still can. Ralseth laughed when he heard the message. The human leader is delusional. All ships prepare to advance. We will show them what real power looks like. The fleet began moving forward, deeper into the solar system. That was when the trap closed. Human ships appeared from everywhere. They had been hiding behind asteroids, moons, and planets. They had been sitting dark and silent, invisible to Council sensors. Now they lit up their engines and weapons all at once, not 50 ships this time. Not 200. 812 advanced warships surrounded the Council fleet. But the ships were not the real surprise. The entire solar system had been turned into a weapon. Automated defense platforms hidden throughout the asteroid belt opened fire with railguns. Satellites began jamming Council communications. Missile batteries on Mars, Europa, and Titan launched thousands of smart missiles. The moon itself bristled with weapons. Earth's orbital stations deployed shields and gun turrets. The space around Earth was suddenly filled with fire and metal. On the flagship, alarms screamed. Officers shouted reports. Ralseth stared at the displays in shock. How? He whispered. How did they build all this? Sir, We are taking fire from multiple directions, an officer reported. Shields are holding, but we cannot advance. We are surrounded. Then we fight our way through, Ralseth ordered. All ships open fire. Destroy everything. The Council fleet tried to attack, but they were trapped. They had entered a system designed to kill invaders. Every approach was covered. Every route was blocked. Human ships moved in coordinated patterns, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted. They struck from the dark and disappeared before Council weapons could lock on. The defense platforms fired constantly. Railgun rounds moving at incredible speeds punched through shields and hulls. Council ships that had seemed invincible began to die. We have to retreat, an officer told Ralseth. We cannot win here. No, Ralseth said stubbornly. We have 1,000 ships. We must break through. But breaking through was impossible. The humans had prepared for this exact scenario. They knew the Council would come. They knew the Council would bring everything they had. So the humans made sure the cost would be unbearable. After 2 hours of fighting, the Council fleet had lost 70 ships. The humans had lost 12. The mathematics were brutal and clear. If the fight continued, the Council would lose hundreds more. On Earth, President Cross watched the battle unfold. He felt no joy in the violence, but he felt satisfaction that his plan was working. They are not retreating, Admiral Blake observed. Their pride will not let them, Nathan said. So we give them a way out. He opened the communication channel again. High Commander Ralseth, you have fought well, but you cannot win here. This is your last chance. Leave now and we will call this a misunderstanding. We will not pursue you. We will not broadcast footage of this battle. You can tell your Council whatever story you want. But if you force us to continue, we will destroy your entire fleet, and then we will make sure every species in the galaxy knows that the Galactic Council is weak. Your choice. You have 10 minutes. On the flagship, Ralseth's officers were pleading with him. Sir, we must retreat. We have already lost too many ships. Ralseth wanted to refuse. His pride demanded he continue. But even he could see the truth. The humans were winning. If he stayed, he would lose everything. Hold position, he ordered. Do not fire unless fired upon. The 10 minutes passed in tense silence. Ships on both sides waited. Then the Thremen ships broke formation. Their commanders had no interest in dying for Valorian pride. They turned and jumped to faster-than-light travel, leaving the battle. The Quilith followed. Then some of the smaller races. Suddenly, Ralseth's fleet was not 1,000 ships anymore. It was 600. Then 500, sir, an officer said quietly. If we stay, we die. Ralseth closed his eyes. He had failed. The humans had beaten him. All remaining ships, he said, his voice heavy with defeat. Retreat. The Council fleet jumped away. They left behind 70 destroyed ships and thousands of dead. But they left alive. On Earth, cheers erupted in the command center. They had won. They had actually won, but Nathan Cross did not cheer. He just nodded. Good work, everyone. Now we prepare for what comes next. 3 months later, the galaxy had changed completely. The Galactic Council was in chaos. 5 more species had declared independence following the example of humanity and the Draxi. The Council's authority was collapsing. Trade no longer flowed through Council-controlled routes. Military protection came from local defense packs, not Council fleets. Some Council races tried to hold on to the old ways, but most realized the truth. The age of the Council's dominance was over. A new age had begun. Ambassador Daniel Hayes sat in his office on Earth, the same man who had walked out of negotiations 2 years ago. A message appeared on his screen. It was from the Galactic Council. They wanted to establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity, as equals with no preconditions. The talks would happen on Earth, not Nexus Prime. Daniel smiled and began writing a response. He would accept their request. Humanity would engage with the Council, but this time it would be as partners, not as servants. He thought about the journey that led to this moment. The insults, the impossible demands, the long silence, the battles, the fear and hope and determination. It had been hard, so hard, but it had been worth it. Sometimes the greatest victories come not from winning battles, but from refusing to fight on someone else's terms. Humanity could have accepted the Council's demands. They could have bent the knee. Life would have been easier, but easier is not always better. Captain Ryan Mitchell flew patrol along the borders of human space in the Defiance. An ensign asked him a question. Sir, do you think there will be another war? Ryan thought about it. No, he finally said. They know now what it costs to fight us. They know what they lost when they pushed us away. We gave them a chance to do this the easy way. They chose the hard way. That is on them. The Defiance jumped to the next system. Behind it, Earth continued building, trading, and growing. Not as part of the Council's system, but as the architects of their own future. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had simply refused to be conquered by it, and that made all the difference.